But I broke through stone and dark with fire still burning in my heart.
Chapter 9. The Mescalero Tribe's Council by the Fire. The Mescalero had rifles, horses, and grit, but the earth whisper was clear. Trouble's riding hard, and I reckon, friends, when a man like Delam Yasadi hears hoofbeats in his dreams, the fight's about to get fiercer than a cornered bobcat. Well, sir, 'twas one of them nights where the sky hung heavy, like a quilt stitched with worry, and the Mescalero tribe gathered round a roaring fire, sparks dancing up to the stars. Old Gomez, what they called Nigayani, meaning the wise elder, don't you know, sat there with Jose, Cigarito, and Marcos, them being the big augurs of the tribe, all ears for young Delamy, who was spinning a yarn about queer doings in the desert. Delamy, he stood tall, voice steady as a river rock, and told him about the sound of hooves thudding out yonder and tracks scrawled in the sand like some ghostly writing. Couldn't say for certain if trouble was brewing, but he reckoned something mighty big was coming, maybe something to tip the scales of power in them parts. Gomez, leaning on his stick, his eyes gleaming like coals in the firelight, says slow-like, "The desert's hush ain't always empty, brothers. Spirits whisper in the breeze and in the tracks we leave behind." His words hung there, heavy as a thunderhead, and the whole tribe felt a chill, like old Ghost was listening. The elders, they got to recollecting the old tales, the ones their grandpappies told 'em. Gomez, he pipes up again. Our kin from way back taught us that times like these try the soul of the people. Ain't just the danger out there, but how we stand together as a tribe. They jawed a spell about siding with the Navajo, weighing the what-ifs and might-be's. Some folks mumbled that Delay might have just had a dream, nothing more'n a night vision spooked by too much mescal. But they settled on a plan sure enough. Scouts was to be posted 50 miles out from the village, with lookouts every 15 miles, keeping sharp eyes peeled. If the farthest feller spotted trouble, he'd send up smoke signals. 3 plumes for white folks coming to make mischief, 1 for Comanches. If it was just wild critters or a twister kicking up dust, the scout'd hightail it to the next feller, passing the word like a bucket brigade till it reached the village. Delam, standing firm, says, "We gotta ready ourselves, folks. Scouts'll fan out 50 miles, with a sentinel every 15, watching and waiting. If danger shows, 3 smokes mean white enemies, 1 smoke means Comanche. If it's beasts or storms, the scout'll carry the word to the next man, and so on till the village knows." Gomez, squinting at him, says, "If them warnings turn out to be nothing but hot air, Delamy, you'll be sent packing to the wilderness. But seeing as you done good trading with Don Esteban, we'll fix you up with a shiny new rifle and a Mustang of your choosing." The tribe took to dancing around the fire, hollering to the spirits to point 'em down the right path, their shadows leaping like wild things in the firelight. But what nobody knowed, except Gomez himself, was that he sent Jose Cigarito slipping off in the dark to fetch Pasago Cabazon of the Chiconan Apache and Sakia of the Llaneros Nedni Apache, asking him to come running if a big old calamity fell on the Zebacaninda band. Chapter 10. Joaquin's squadron creeps along. Come midday, the sun was blazing down like a skillet on a fire, and Joaquin's squadron was picking their way through the desert, cautious as cats in a dog yard. They was a mix of military spit and polish and the wild, ornery ways of the frontier. One of their scouts throws up a hand, pointing to a dust cloud rising on the horizon like a ghost getting riled. Subteniente Ramos, keeping his voice low, says, "Dust yonder, senor. Might be riders, might be a wagon." Joaquin, he didn't take to surprises, so he split the squadron in 2, circling around that dust cloud quiet-like, not stirring up the desert like they'd done the day before. They tied the mules to a scraggly tree, leaving 2 Creole soldiers to mind the supplies, while the rest crept through rocks and brush, moving like a pair of pincers to trap whatever was out there. Joaquin's boys took the right flank, Ramos's the left, closing in slow and steady. As they got nearer, they seen what was kicking up all that dust. One lone wagon, pulled by 4 horses, tearing through the barren land faster'n a jackrabbit with a coyote on its tail. Warn't no stagecoach or mail route. There weren't no roads out here to speak of. The riders swarmed ground, forcing the driver to rein up. Out from under the wagon's cover pops 2 women, clutching rifles, a mama and her daughter, looking fierce as bobcats. The driver, a wiry feller, holds up a Bible and starts hollering verses, first in English, then, seeing the soldiers' duds, switching to Spanish. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, I bless this here place and them what seeks light in the darkness. The riders, they took off their sombreros and bowed their heads, showing respect like folks do when a preacher gets to preaching. Joaquin, though, kept his eyes sharp and his hand on his rifle, sizing up this Bible thumper. "Who are you, and what's your business in this desert?" Joaquin says, his voice cold as a winter creek. "This ain't no place for sermonizers." The preacher, with a warm, steady tone, answers, "I've been roaming these parts, hunting a spot to plant the Word of God, a refuge for lost souls. I ain't after war, only peace." Ramos, leaning over to Joaquin, whispers, "Seems a godly man, but out here, godliness don't always keep a feller breathing." Joaquin stared at the preacher a good long while, then waved his hand for the boys to lower their guns. "We'll see if peace can hold in these parts," he says. "The desert's got its own notions about what's what." Come to find out, this feller was a true blue preacher, wandering the frontier to build a church and gather a flock. He'd come from t'other direction, where he hadn't found a soul to save, and now he was headed for Santa Fe, hoping to find a village to shepherd, or at least a patch of dirt to call a homestead. Chapter 11, Sierra Blanca. The sun was just a-shine over them red rocks of Sierra Blanca, peeking like a bashful young'un scared to show his face. The wind carried a whiff of dried sage sharp enough to sting your nose, and the ground fairly trembled under the pounding of horses' hoofs and the restless thoughts of men who couldn't find no peace. Subtenente Luis Fernando Ramos Ortega, folks just called him Ramos, was polishing his leather belt for the 3rd time that morning. 'Tweren't vanity, mind you, but a fidgety kind of unease gnawing at his innards. That preacher's daughter, she was the culprit. Her eyes had a hankering in 'em that went clean past the good book and straight to a feller's heart. He hadn't breathed the word to nobody, but lordy, them eyes was trouble. Joaquin, a rough old cuss with a growl like a bear, woke up too early, fixed Ramos with a squint. "So, Mr. Preacher," says he, leaning back in his saddle, "you hail from Bremen, you say, and come traipsing out here to save heathens and Catholics alike. That's a mighty fine tale, but I ain't buying it. What really drug you to this dust-choked land? Don't feed me no sugar-coated yarns." The preacher, a tall drink of water by the name of Heinrich Albrecht Stein, straightened up. "I'm a Lutheran missionary, or was, 'fore I wandered here in spirit and flesh. I talk English, Spanish, and German, slick as you please. Why'd I come? Truth is, Joaquin, I seen too much blood spilt in Europe, rivers of it. I reckoned I could bring a speck of peace out here with the word. 'Stead I found swords, hate, and folks squinting at me like I'm a fox in the hen house." Ramos, he piped up, his eyes straying to the preacher's daughter. "In a world like this, sir, only greenhorns go hunting peace. But sometimes, you know, the Almighty drops a sign or two. Some signs got hair like ripe wheat and eyes like the sky after a spring rain." Joaquin rolled his eyes so hard they near fell out his head. "Boy," he growled, "your tongue's going to get you planted 6 foot under 'fore a bullet does. Listen here now. Mexico's like an old mule cart, creaking along with blind mules pulling it. We don't know where we're headed, but when a stranger comes talking 3 tongues and slipping twixt ranches and tribes easy as a snake through grass, we keep him close, real close." The preacher's brow creased. "You figuring I'm a traitor then?" Joaquin let out a laugh, short and dry as a desert bone. "I suspicion the cactus by the window, preacher, but I ain't no fool. I'd rather you ride where I can see you than skulk behind my back. And if the Lord sent you, well, I reckon he'd best keep his eyes on you too." Ramos grinned, sly-like. "And maybe you don't mind sticking close, eh? Safety's a treasure, ain't it?" Chapter 12. She Who Smiles. Over in the Mescalero Apache camp, a feller named Diweoni Sonia felt a shadow creeping over his heart. He squinted past the horizon, feeling something coming, something wrong, like a skunk's stink before you see the critter. The tribe had plenty from the bison hunt, but Diweoni, he'd learned the hard way that nothing happens by accident. There was this little gal always smiling and trailing after him, giving him a yucca bracelet like it was a secret twixt 'em. She popped up too often for it to be chance, and he realized he didn't even know her name. So he moseyed over to Gomez, the old-timer who knew everybody's business. "Who's that gal always grinning at me?" he asked. And Gomez, he spun a yarn and make your hair stand on end. She was the daughter of Shil Hastine, Lightfoot, a Mescalero warrior so fierce he was half legend. Back in '40, after a raid down Sonora way, Shil Hastine was hunting alone in the desert. He spied a general band hauling plunder home, rich as a king's ransom. Next day, a Mexican patrol come thundering through, scaring off the rabbit he meant to fetch for his kin. Most men skedaddle, but not Lightfoot. He vowed to hold 'em off so's the generals could get clean away. He fought like a ghost, hiding amongst rocks and dunes, picking off soldiers with a rifle till his bullets was gone. Then he pulled his knife, striking fast and melting into the dark. He aimed to steal a horse, make it to the Rio Grande, and whittle a bow to finish the job. But the Mexicans, they cornered him by some big old cacti. Didn't have the guts to face him fair, so they all fired at once, like cowards. They scalped him, sold his hair to the governor, and left his body to bake in the sun. Old Marcos found him, carried him to a sacred spot, and raised him on poles to return to the earth like a warrior ought. Since then, folks don't speak his name, lest they rile the spirits. Some Mexicans swear his ghost dances in the desert at night, twirling a knife like he's still hunting scalps. Ain't nobody proved it, though. But his daughter, she lived on. They called her She Who Smiles. Zay Soy. That smile of hers hit a heart full of hurt.
Beneath Sierra Blanca, where the starlight glows, Diweoni someone, he feels the desert soul. He listens to the silence where the old winds moan. On his horse named Spirit, through the sands alone.